What do you do when your gut tells you something's wrong, but the reports on your desk all say it's fine? That question had been eating at Reuben Tiller for weeks. He stood in his downtown office, sleeves rolled up, staring at the quarterly report for his 10-location luxury hotel chain. Everything looked perfect on paper. Occupancy numbers were solid, guest satisfaction steady, staff turnover manageable. But something didn't sit right. He hadn't been hands-on in years, not since he inherited the company from his father. It had grown too big, too fast, and he'd trusted district managers to keep each hotel in shape. But lately, the complaints trickling into his private email painted a different picture. None of them mentioned anything explosive, just vague frustration, cold service, weird energy. A few young workers quitting without notice. His gut told him to dig deeper, so Reuben did what his dad used to do when things didn't add up. He put on a uniform and went in. He picked the Midtown location, the third busiest in the chain, where he'd never personally met the staff. It was a corporate-run property, so no one there had any reason to recognize him. With gray-tinted contact lenses, a trimmed beard, and a fresh haircut, he looked more like a Midwestern divorcee than a 42-year-old hotel CEO. He'd done this once before, years ago, but this time felt heavier. He walked through the staff entrance with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder, heart thudding like he was 20 again. "Name?" the front desk supervisor asked, not looking up. "Rick," Reuben said. "Rick Tiller. Here to start the Bellhop trainee shift." She gave him a badge, a schedule, and a half-hearted welcome. "You're shadowing Miguel today. He's been here a while." Miguel, a short, wiry guy with a quiet voice and kind eyes, greeted him with a firm handshake. "Hope you're ready to carry bags." "I've lifted heavier," Reuben said, forcing a grin. The first few hours passed in a blur of luggage, elevator doors, and forced smiles. Reuben noticed it fast. Most of the older staff seemed on edge, like they were trying not to step on something. The younger workers, meanwhile, kept their heads low. Some barely spoke at all. At lunch, he sat beside Miguel in the break room and lowered his voice. "You always this quiet?" Miguel laughed softly. "Nah, just careful." "Careful." Before Miguel could answer, the breakroom door swung open. A woman in her early 50s walked in, heels clicking like a warning. She had a sharp jaw, dark blazer, and eyes that scanned the room like a security camera. "Alina," Miguel whispered. "The manager." Reuben watched as she made a beeline for Kelsey, a girl who couldn't have been older than 19. Kelsey froze, sandwich halfway to her mouth. "You clocked in late again," Alina said flatly. "It was 2 minutes, don't care. Third time this month." "You want to keep working here or not?" Kelsey visibly shrank. "Yes, then act like it." Alina turned without another word and left. Miguel sighed. "She's been like that for a while, especially with the younger ones." Reuben tilted his head. "Why? Don't know, says they're lazy." "But they're just kids trying to make rent. She's been on a power trip ever since the last district visit." "Anyone say anything?" Miguel gave him a look. "You think anyone would listen?" That night, Reuben stayed late, pretending to check the lobby carts. He watched Alina pull aside another young worker, a guy named Drew, maybe 22. Drew looked pale. "I already told you," Alina said, voice low but sharp. "I don't care if you're in school. You're either available full-time or I'll cut your hours to nothing." "I can't lose this job," Drew started. "Then grow up. Make a choice." Reuben clenched his fists behind the luggage desk. The next morning, he arrived early and helped an elderly couple with their bags. When he returned, he saw Alina cornering a new girl near the service elevator. Reuben didn't hear what was said, but the girl walked away red-eyed. He'd seen enough for now. That afternoon, he asked Miguel, "If you could change one thing here, what would it be?" Miguel didn't hesitate. "Let the kids breathe. They're not lazy, they're scared." Reuben nodded slowly. "Thanks for being honest." "No problem, Rick. You're one of the few that actually listens." Later that day, back in the staff locker room, Reuben stared at himself in the mirror, his face flushed with guilt. He'd been gone too long. Trusted the wrong people. He took off the badge. Tomorrow, he'd come back, but not as Rick the Bellhop. Tomorrow, they'd meet the owner. At 6:45 the next morning, Reuben stepped through the front entrance, not the service corridor. Gone was the muted uniform and name tag. In its place, a navy blazer, pressed shirt, and polished shoes. He walked with purpose but not arrogance. The concierge looked up, confused, then caught the thin gold pin on Reuben's lapel, a discreet emblem worn only by corporate executives. "I'm here for Alina Alvarez," Reuben said. "Let her know Mr. Tiller has arrived." The concierge's eyes widened. "Of course, right away." Exactly 12 minutes later, Alina appeared near the elevators, adjusting her blazer as she approached. She offered a tight smile, extending her hand. "Mr. Tiller, what a surprise. We weren't expecting, that was the point." She paused, lips parting slightly, then nodded. "Of course, would you like to speak in my office?" "I'd like to see the staff first." In the break room, Alina hesitated. "They're doing shift change." "It's a bit chaotic right now. I'll manage." As they walked through the back corridor, Reuben noted every detail. A cleaning cart left in the hallway. A schedule pinned to the wall, half the slots filled with red pen corrections. When they reached the break room, it was indeed crowded. Staff from the night and morning shifts overlapping, some grabbing coffee, others slumped in chairs. Conversation quieted the moment they saw Alina. Reuben stepped in, then turned to face them. "Good morning," he said calmly. "My name's Reuben Tiller. I own this hotel. Some of you may not know me, and that's on me. I've been too far removed. That ends today." No one moved. A few exchanged glances. Miguel, standing near the vending machine, looked stunned. "I've spent the last 3 days here as an entry-level trainee," Reuben continued. "I've seen how things really run, who carries the weight, who listens, and who doesn't." He let that hang for a moment. "Some of you are doing exceptional work. You've kept this place running with minimal support and maximum pressure. That doesn't go unnoticed." He turned slightly toward Alina. "But I also saw something else, something that contradicts everything this company stands for." Alina straightened, not speaking. "Kelsey, Drew. Come forward." The two young workers froze. Kelsey looked like she might bolt. Drew's jaw tightened. "It's okay," Reuben said gently. "You're not in trouble. I need you here." Slowly, they stepped forward. Reuben faced them, his tone shifting. "I heard the way you were spoken to. Watched how you were treated, the dismissiveness, the threats, the pressure to work beyond your hours or risk losing your job. That's not leadership. That's coercion." He turned back to the rest of the room. "No one here should be afraid to ask for a schedule that lets them finish school. No one should be punished over 2 minutes, and no manager should use fear as a tool to maintain control." Alina finally stepped in. "Mr. Tiller, I think there's some context." "There's no context under which intimidation is acceptable," Reuben interrupted. "I gave you this team. You were supposed to guide them, not break them down." Alina's face stiffened. "I've run this location for 8 years. I've delivered consistent results. We're above target for the 3rd quarter." Reuben held up a hand. "And at what cost?" No answer. He looked back at Kelsey and Drew. "You deserved support, not ultimatums. That ends now." He turned to Alina, voice firm. "You're relieved of your position, effective immediately." Her eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "I'm not just serious, I'm overdue." For a long moment the room was silent. Then Alina stepped back, lips pressed tight. She turned and walked out without another word. Reuben faced the staff again. "This hotel will not be run through fear. Starting today, we're restructuring leadership. Miguel will be interim operations supervisor while we assess permanent options." Miguel blinked. "Sir, I don't know if you've earned it," Reuben said. "I watched you lead without a title. That's the kind of leadership we build from." He looked around the room. "We'll be holding one-on-one check-ins with each of you, not HR screenings. Real conversations. We'll fix the schedule gaps. We'll add another bellhop and a second front desk clerk by next week. And we're reinstating the education shift flexibility policy that should have never been dropped." A murmur passed through the room, quiet but hopeful. Reuben gave a small nod. "Thank you for holding this place up. You shouldn't have had to, but you did. Now we'll do right by you." He left the break room and headed straight for the back office, where he called corporate HR. Alina's dismissal paperwork was expedited. Severance was denied. Her behavior violated company ethics policy. HR would also be conducting a quiet audit of her last 2 years of employee exits and complaints. Patterns needed to be surfaced. By noon, Reuben had a report from the front desk clerk detailing how shift availability requests had been routinely ignored. A part-time worker had submitted 5 in the last 2 months. None were ever acknowledged. That same employee had quit last week. No exit interview. He met with Miguel privately in the loading bay. "You ever think about moving into management full-time?" Reuben asked. Miguel rubbed the back of his neck. "Honestly, I used to, then I saw what it looked like here." Reuben nodded. "It's supposed to look different. You'll have mentorship, resources, but you'll be setting the tone." Miguel hesitated. "I don't want to be the guy people are afraid of." "Then don't be. Be the guy they respect." Later that day, Kelsey approached Reuben by the side entrance. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I thought I was going crazy," she said. "Like maybe I just wasn't tough enough." "You were tough enough," Reuben replied. "You just weren't treated fairly." "That's on us." She nodded slowly, then stepped away. That evening, Reuben walked the guest floors again, this time not undercover. He passed Drew hauling a luggage cart and gave him a nod. Drew gave one back. In the lobby, a new guest approached the front desk. The concierge smiled genuinely this time. Energy felt different, not fixed, but shifting. As Reuben stepped into the elevator, he pulled out his phone and opened a blank note. At the top, he typed, "What happens when leadership forgets to show up?" Then, underneath that, they get replaced. "Let's walk the kitchen line," Reuben said, not slowing as he passed the front desk. The new assistant manager, a cautious but sharp woman named Priya, followed close behind. She transferred in from the Coral Springs location 2 days after Alina's dismissal. Unlike her predecessor, Priya didn't try to control the room with fear. She asked questions. She took notes. And most importantly, she listened. The lobby looked cleaner, a little brighter. But Reuben wasn't interested in optics today. He wanted to know what it felt like behind the scenes after the dust had settled. They entered the back corridor that led to the kitchen. A food runner darted past with a tray balanced in one hand and a printed ticket in the other. Reuben stepped aside, noting the sweat along the runner's collar line. Inside the kitchen, heat pressed in like a weight. The sous chef, Jackson, had both burners going while plating 2 dishes. A new line cook barely out of his teens was chopping vegetables with a kind of frantic urgency that made Reuben slow his pace. "Who's working expo right now?" Reuben asked. Jackson motioned with his elbow. "Nina's at the window. She's been covering both lunch and prep since we lost Darren." "Why didn't we backfill his role yet?" Priya already had her tablet out. "Corporate flagged the cost, said we needed to hit margin targets first." Reuben turned toward her. "That changes immediately. We can't run 2 full meal periods short-staffed. Post the role today." He stepped toward the pass, where Nina, a woman in her late 30s with tight curls pulled into a bun, was double-checking tickets and shouting corrections over the clatter of pans. "Nina, you've been covering 2 stations for 6 weeks. I asked Alina for help twice back then, got told to figure it out." She didn't pause, didn't look up. "You'll have a second prep cook by next week. In the meantime, we'll bring in a floater from the downtown property." "Appreciated," she said, flipping a ticket with one hand and adjusting a plate garnish with the other. Reuben stepped back, catching Priya's eye. "Set up a rotating kitchen support schedule. Pull part-time culinary students from our internship list. If they're competent, we train them up. If not, we give them a shot to improve." "I'll draft it today," she nodded. Back in the hallway, Reuben spotted Miguel talking with the housekeeping lead, Anya. They were reviewing a clipboard with marked-up room assignments. "How's the load today?" Reuben asked. Anya looked up, surprised but not uncomfortable. 82 checkouts. We're down 2 team members. Leslie called out. Her mother's in the hospital. Do we have coverage? Kind of. I split the double rooms between me and Tamara, but we'll need to push check-in on 8 floors. Don't burn yourself out, Reuben said. We'll comp early arrivals with lounge access and a voucher. Priya, have the front desk briefed. What about Tamara? Miguel asked. She's already worked 6 days straight. Reuben exhaled through his nose. Give her tomorrow off. I'll cover the linen runs myself if I need to. Anya blinked. You serious? I've hauled worse. He turned back toward the service elevator, but Miguel caught up to him before he reached it. Why are you really doing this? Miguel asked. You already made your point. You came in, cleaned house, and fixed what was broken. I didn't fix anything yet, Reuben said, pressing the elevator button. I just stopped it from getting worse. As the elevator doors opened, a voice behind them cut through. Mr. Tiller, it was Drew, still in uniform, but his shirt was untucked and his expression unsettled. Got a minute? He asked. Of course. They stepped aside while Miguel and Priya moved on. Drew looked down before speaking. I don't want to sound ungrateful. Things have been better. People seem lighter, but there's something I've got to say. Reuben nodded once. Go ahead. I think someone's still playing games with the schedule. I overheard Lexi in laundry saying she got her hours cut again. She's part-time, but the sheet posted has her down for only 1 shift this week. She's been here longer than me. Did she bring it up? She's scared to. Said she didn't want to cause waves. Reuben's jaw tensed. Who's in charge of scheduling right now? Technically Priya. But she only signs off. The actual sheet gets assembled by Travis. Travis from maintenance. No, front desk Travis. He used to help Alina with reports, kind of stuck around after. Reuben didn't wait. He turned and made his way back through the lobby. Travis was behind the desk, adjusting the rooming list. Early 30s, clean-cut, confident, he looked up and gave a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Mr. Tiller. Didn't expect to see you on the floor. I need to see the shift assignment log, today's and last week's. Travis hesitated. Sure, but you'll need Priya's system credentials to access the back end. Print what you have. Travis tapped a few keys, then pulled 2 sheets from the printer behind him. Reuben scanned them. Lexi had 1 shift listed for the entire week. Another newer hire who had less than a month of tenure had 4. What's the logic behind these assignments? Travis shrugged. We try to reward flexibility. Lexi's got a limited window, school or something. Reuben looked up. Lexi requested afternoon shifts. We have 39 open slots after 3 p.m. this week. You assigned 8 of them. Travis blinked. I didn't realize. I think you did. I think you're continuing a system that punishes people for having lives outside of work. That's not fair. What's not fair is retaliatory scheduling. You're relieved of scheduling responsibilities immediately. Priya will audit your past 4 weeks of logs. If we find any pattern of favoritism or retaliation, you'll be terminated. Travis stepped back, his voice tight. You're taking this too far. Reuben folded the papers. No. I'm taking it seriously. He walked away without waiting for a response. Back in the staff operations room, he found Priya reviewing vendor invoices. Start pulling Travis's logs. Look for inconsistencies. Also, cross-check call-out reports versus reschedules. Understood. And one more thing. I want a system where no one person controls the schedule. Set up peer review, 2 supervisors per draft, no exceptions. I'll implement it by next week. Later, Reuben rode the elevator to the top floor. He stood alone, watching the light flicker from floor to floor. His reflection faint in the mirrored wall. When the doors opened, he stepped out and walked to the end of the hall where a small maintenance closet sat mostly unused. Inside, an old corkboard still held faded copies of shift rotations from years ago. He pulled them down. On the back, in his father's handwriting, was a note. Leadership isn't about control. It's about responsibility. He folded the sheet and put it in his jacket pocket. Back downstairs, he found Lexi folding towels near the guest laundry chute. You'll have full shifts next week, he said. Afternoons, like you asked. She looked up, startled. Thank you, she said, voice quiet. Reuben nodded once and walked on. Reuben sat in the corner of the staff meeting room, arms folded as sunlight filtered through the narrow window slats. The room felt different now, quieter, more focused. Not relaxed, not yet, but no longer tense in that brittle, ready to snap way it had been days ago. The chairs were mostly filled, some staff still in uniform, others having just finished their shifts. A few leaned against the back wall, hands in pockets, watching curiously. Priya stood at the front, a clipboard in hand, flipping to the final page of the printed agenda. Last item: revised scheduling protocol and shift equity review. We're rolling out the dual approval system starting Monday. No schedule goes live without 2 supervisors signing off. If you see anything off, speak up. That's not just allowed, that's expected. No one interrupted. Reuben stood slowly. Before we wrap, I've got something to say. All eyes turned toward him. Some, like Miguel and Nina, nodded. Others looked cautious, uncertain what was coming next. I didn't come here to catch people messing up, but that's what I found. And I needed to see it with my own eyes, because the company I thought we were running on paper didn't exist on the ground floor. He paused. That's on me, and I'm correcting it, starting with how we treat the people who keep this place running. He stepped closer to the center of the room. Quiet retaliation, favoritism, and intimidation are done here. That's not a talking point. That's a policy. You will not be punished for having a second job, for being in school, or for asking for a schedule that lets you care for your family. You're not invisible. If someone makes you feel like you are, you come to me. He scanned the room, making eye contact where he could. This week, I watched people carry burdens they shouldn't have had to. I saw staff picking up each other's slack not because they were asked, but because they refused to let things fall apart. That kind of accountability deserves more than a thank you. It deserves investment. He turned toward Miguel. You've taken on more responsibility than anyone asked you to. You've earned more than a temporary title. Starting today, you're officially our operations lead. Compensation adjusted accordingly. Miguel's eyebrows lifted slightly. I appreciate that. I just want to do it right. You already have. Reuben then looked toward the back where Kelsey leaned against the wall, arms crossed. We're also creating a staff council, 1 rep from each department, rotating quarterly. You'll meet with Priya and me once a month. You'll bring concerns, proposals, and feedback that don't come through formal channels. That includes scheduling, safety, and anything else affecting work conditions. Kelsey straightened. So we'd actually get to help shape things? Exactly. Before she could respond, Drew raised his hand slightly. Are we allowed to ask for resources through it? Like if a department needs better equipment, you are. And if the request is reasonable and overdue, you'll get it. A murmur passed through the room, not loud, but distinct. Nobody had expected that. Reuben looked around once more. We're not going to be perfect, but we're going to be honest. That starts with me. So if you see something wrong, not just inconvenient, but wrong, you don't wait. You say something. You don't get brushed off anymore. He stepped back. That's it from me. Pria'll follow up on implementation. As people began to file out, Reuben stayed, speaking briefly with each person who lingered. He didn't rush anyone. He asked questions. When Tamara mentioned the cleaning carts still had faulty wheels, he turned to Priya and said, "Expedite replacements." When Jackson walked in late, apron still stained from the lunch rush, Reuben motioned him over. Prep line still short. For now, yeah. The culinary intern starts Thursday, but she's green. Pair her with Nina for the first week. Let her shadow, not lead. Copy that. By late afternoon, Reuben walked the service hallway again. The tempo had shifted slightly, not slower but steadier. Less frantic. Less sharp corners in people's voices. He passed Lexi folding fitted sheets alone near the supply shelf. Got your updated shift list? He asked. Yeah, it's actually balanced now, afternoon blocks like I asked, no weird gaps, good. You notice anything else off, you let me know directly, she hesitated. There's one thing, go ahead. Laundry room ventilation's still awful. It's not just uncomfortable, it makes it hard to breathe after a few hours. We've been propping the side door open, but that's not really allowed. I'll get maintenance to assess airflow this week. If it needs a fan upgrade or a duct repair, we'll do it." She nodded once, then went back to folding. Back in the main hallway, Reuben caught sight of Travis near the side desk. He wasn't in uniform. A small duffel bag sat beside him. His expression was closed off, unreadable. "You got a minute?" Reuben asked. Travis stood but didn't speak. "I reviewed your shift allocations myself. You prioritized certain employees based on personal preferences, not performance or availability. I also saw how you handled time-off requests. The pattern was deliberate." "I made judgment calls," Travis said flatly. "You made biased ones. You were given trust and used it to control access to hours and retaliation. That's not a lapse in training, that's a breach of ethics." Travis looked away. "So that's it?" "That's it. You're no longer employed with the company. You'll receive documentation from HR. Your access has already been revoked." He didn't argue. He picked up his bag and walked toward the exit. Reuben didn't watch him leave. Later that evening, Reuben joined Priya and Miguel in the small office behind the front desk. The door was closed. The lights were dimmed to save power, and the only sound was the soft tap of Priya's pen against her notebook. "We've got a long way to go," she said, breaking the silence. Reuben nodded. "But we're moving." Miguel leaned back in his chair. "You think people trust it yet?" "The changes? They shouldn't have to trust it overnight," Reuben replied. "They should see it hold week after week. Then they'll believe it's not just a phase." Priya looked up. "You planning to rotate through the other properties the same way, eventually?" Quietly, one at a time, she nodded. "They'll never see you coming." "I hope not." As Reuben stepped into the hallway again, the light from the lobby windows cut across the tile. Outside, the sky had shifted to dusk. Guests moved in and out of the revolving doors, unaware of anything beyond their room keys and reservation numbers. But behind those walls, things had changed, not by accident, by choice.